one question from one of the listeners. Michael's asked, I would love, as a stutterer, to hear your opinion on root cause, treatment options, and by extension, whether it can be completely resolved.
Oh, okay. Thanks. That's a great question. I realize I didn't talk about stuttering at all in the conversation that we've had. So thank you for the question. So stuttering, we actually understand to be part of the genetic makeup of a person. Like there is a genetic predisposition for stuttering, and then there can be particular precipitating factors in children's early lives and in later life as well, but more commonly in early life, that can cause that stutter to manifest. And there are a number of different strategies. I am not an expert therapist in the treatment of stuttering, so my knowledge here and my comments are pretty broad brush. But there are treatments. There's one treatment I know that was birthed here in Australia called the LIDCOM program, which, if delivered before the age of 6, is has been shown to be very effective. And it's an operant conditioning model of intervention. As children get older, my understanding is that the evidence for specific and particular techniques starts to thin out a little bit. There does seem to be a little bit of a no man's land there, where maybe the LIDCOM program is not any longer as likely to work in the same way as what we have hope of it working when children are younger. And then when children get into their teenage years, and for adults as well, then there's a process which has been called restructured speech, or when I went through university years ago, it used to be called smooth speech. And so sometimes people will know it under that title. And that means learning to produce speech in a way that is just very slightly differently structured to the way that we use the mechanics of our mouth and lips and tongue when speaking regularly. So it just moves into this smoother way of speaking, so that the articulation of the consonants are not done in such a strong and harsh and explosive way. So very, very slightly different. And when people get good at using that restructured speech, they have a better chance of being able to control their stutter. But there are all sorts of anxieties that can hang around the edges of stuttering as well, understandably, and they can be interfering. And so people often need support in understanding themselves more deeply as a whole human being, not just in response to the production of speech. And, so this is where you asked about other health professionals a moment ago, and I don't think I answered your question. So this is where we can, very much join up with, an excellent psychologist who can support and work with somebody in their anxiety while we're working on the stuttering aspects. Do we say that stuttering can be cured? I think maybe the word cure wasn't used when you asked the question, but that was maybe the question itself. We would always say, we can't cure, but what we can support is the exploration of processes and methods that might work for a person to help them learn to control the challenges of stuttering. And or for many people, they will ask this question. They'll say, why can't society out there listen to stuttered speech? I'm a stutterer and I stutter when I speak, and why can't society learn to adjust to that? Why should I be the one that has to adjust? And actually, I'm going to say, I think it's a pretty fair question. So there are lots of different angles on it, but yes, thank you for the question about stuttering. It is really important.
Is it a matter of multiple different causes, stuttering? I imagine to some extent it's hereditary in some individuals, but also anxiety related. Would I be correct in saying that?
So it's a chicken and egg question, that one, because what we used to always, years and years and years ago, it was the received wisdom was that it was anxiety related. Now what's understood more completely is that any associated anxieties are more likely to be a product of the stuttering in the first instance, and the fact of somebody going into a speaking situation and putting themselves forward in a speaking situation and then being worried that they will stutter, that the stutter was there first and then the anxieties maybe follow on from that. So yeah, it seems much clearer to us now that there are the hereditary factors, and then there are certain contexts within early childhood that can precipitate the genetic predisposition for a stutter. And some of those things can be, households that talk over top of each other all the time, where the child, can't get a word in edgewise, where they get interrupted when they're trying to talk, where they're tired and not put to bed, and they're tired and they're hungry. And like, if I'm tired and hungry, I'm more likely to have disfluency in my speech as well. So, those kinds of things are just some examples of precipitating variables.